Hello everyone, it's Brittany and welcome back to Brittany Unplugged. And as you can tell by the title of this video, we're going to be talking about the 6 signs that you're toxic. So a lot of people talk about how they're in toxic friendships, toxic relationships, and so on. But then we've never actually taken the time as human beings. We live in a society where people like to blame other people. People like to point the fingers at them. But then we forget that when we point a finger at someone, it's 3 fingers pointing back at you. So you may not even realize that you are the one adding to the problem. You are adding on to the issue of toxicity. So it's really important to know whether or not you are being toxic. So if you want to know the 6 signs that maybe you are a toxic person, then keep watching. Now, the first sign that you're toxic is inconsistency. Now, this is being inconsistent, especially with the people that you supposedly care about. It's like you pick and choose when to care for them, but it only benefits you and you do it at your disposal. Now, the definition of inconsistency is not staying the same. So either you could be kind to them whenever it really suits you to be kind to them, or you know that let's say you need something from this person and they're the best person that can supply you with whatever you need. So you end up giving them 100% energy. And once they fulfill whatever you need, then you go back to how you were before you needed that thing. So they fulfill whatever you need them to do, right? Or when you talk to them one day, you can give them the time of day on that particular day, but then once they do whatever you need them to do, you kind of go back to normal. You forget that they exist and you keep going back to them when you need something rather than when you really just want to check up on them, rather than when you just want to see how they're doing, and you just always go back to them when you need them. That's being inconsistent because you are leaving the person confused about where they stand and where you stand as well. Because when you're inconsistent with someone, not only are you giving them false hope, but then you're also causing a deep sense of confusion for them as well. Because they're going to feel like the day that you decide to give them 100% energy at your disposal, then automatically they're going to be like, oh my gosh, yes, I'm finally getting through to this person. But then when you ignore them the next day and you kind of act different and maybe you don't respond to their messages or you act cold to them or you just really act like you don't care, it's going to hurt their feelings. Now, being inconsistent with someone is something that you shouldn't own. It's not a badge of honor to be the cause of someone's confusion. Because being inconsistent with someone is you sort of not realizing the fact that you are taking advantage of how nice they are, how kind they are. You're taking advantage of the fact that you know they're always going to come back to you regardless. That if you need help with something, they're always going to help you because they're genuinely a good person. So if you're taking advantage of that, that is toxic because you are going to end up causing deep confusion and sadness towards them. And they're going to feel it and they're going to be bitter towards you eventually when they realize what you've done. Because of course, when you're toxic, sometimes you don't realize that you're toxic. And it takes the other person who is on the receiving end of your toxicity may not realize it there and then that you're being toxic. But maybe later on when they've healed or later on when they've done a lot of self-reflection, they realize that this person is toxic. They're going to think of you and they're going to feel very bitter. So if you have an issue, if you figure out that maybe you can be very inconsistent with people, that's something that you need to fix because you don't want to leave, a bad taste in someone's mouth. Now, this brings me to the second sign that you're toxic, and this is manipulation or control. Now, sometimes, let's say if you're not really aware of the fact that you are manipulating someone, just know that if you are asking or trying to convince someone or coerce them into doing something, and then they end up feeling guilty after you have coerced them or convinced them or whatever you did, then that is you manipulating them. Because in one of my previous videos, when I was talking about toxic friendships, I said manipulation comes in the form of guilt tripping and gaslighting. You've guilt tripped them and you've made them feel even worse for not doing it for you. And a lot of the times, it's like, for example, let's say if you ask your friend to do something risky and then they're not comfortable with doing that risky thing and you say something like, oh, after all I've done for you, this is what you do. So that is a form of manipulation because you're putting them in a position where they have no option but to say yes, no matter how risky it is. So if you find that you always need to kind of flip things around on the other person that you're trying to convince, and you always feel the need to guilt trip them in every little thing in order for them to do whatever you want to do, then that is manipulation and that is toxic. Now, a lot of the times we forget that manipulation is also a form of control as well because you're controlling a situation in an unscrupulous manner, meaning that there's no morals to whatever you're doing. There's no form of good value to whatever you're doing because it's always going to leave the person feeling bad and it's always going to leave the person feeling 10 times worse than how they were feeling before. Even if you're in an argument with your friend or your significant other and you never feel like you're wrong and you always flip it around on them and say, no, but you, and you can't take ownership for their actions. And let's say they're the victim of whatever you did. Let's say you're the one that's in the wrong and you can't admit that you're in the wrong and you try and flip around your bad actions onto them and you just never feel like you need to apologize for anything. And then they end up feeling bad for confronting you about a situation that you were the cause of, then that's toxic. Because if someone is coming to you, especially someone that you care about, if someone you care about is coming to you saying that you hurt me in this specific way, and you flip it around on them, that is manipulation, gaslighting, and guilt tripping, and it's toxic. So if you find that you have a tendency of manipulating people, that's a sign that you're toxic and you need to fix that. Now, the third sign that you're toxic, which is probably one of the biggest signs of them all, is when someone else's happiness or success or wins is a threat to you. Now, if you find that you can be there for someone in their downfall, when they're hurt, they're depressed or whatever, but you can't be there for them when they have succeeded in something, when they've won in something, then that's toxic. Because ultimately, if your friend or your significant other or your sibling or whoever win something, let's say they win a medal, a trophy, or let's say they won a trip to go somewhere, that doesn't mean that they're in competition with you. The moment you feel like someone else's win means that you have to one up them, if you keep asking yourself things like, oh, how can I one up this person? How can I do better than this person? Then that's toxic, because it's not a competition, first of all. It's just you telling yourself that you are in competition with this person when there's no competition at all. If the idea of seeing your friends or even the most important people in your life, if the idea of seeing them winning, if the idea of supporting them, of doing everything in your power to make sure that they get to where they need to be, if that makes you feel angry and it makes you feel heavy, you need to do self-introspection, because everyone else is trying to get better in life. Everyone else is trying to always one up whatever they do. So are you. So the moment you start getting angry by people trying to one up themselves, doing the best job that they can to one up themselves, if you find that you're angry and you just feel so bitter towards them when they win, that's a sign that you're toxic, and you need to do self-introspection and figure out what you're good at, figure out the things that you can always one up, so that you don't feel the need to be threatened by other people's wins who weren't even meant to be your wins in the first place. Because a lot of the times, their wins are in line with their vision, not yours. Everyone has a different vision that they're trying to achieve. So you can't be mad at someone else who is really trying to achieve that vision of theirs, because their vision is unique and completely different to yours. Now, the fourth major sign that you're toxic is when you expect to get what you don't give in a relationship. Now, if you're in a friendship or you're in a romantic relationship or even at home with your family, if you expect the relationship to be one-sided in your favor, then you are toxic. Now, really evaluate this. Let's say you have a friend who gives you loyalty, who cares for you, who gives you time, who's there at your beck and call, and then they're always putting in the extra effort in order to hold up that relationship. Really think about what you do in return for them. Because if you expect them and you know that they're going to give you all of these great things in the relationship, all the great things that come in a friendship or a relationship, if they're there and they're going to provide you with that, and you know yourself that you can't provide them with that, but you constantly expect them to provide that, for you, then that's toxic, because you're expecting the relationship to be one-sided and you're taking advantage of the fact that that person is going to be able to provide those things for you. Now, the problem with expecting to get what you don't give is that you always end up becoming too comfortable with the person. You forget that that person can really just leave you there and then. So let's say you have a friend who's always there for you, who responds to your messages quickly, who always makes plans to go out with you, and they're always the one making plans and you can't make plans with them. And let's say, they're always going to answer your call. If you're in doubt or you're in some kind of, emergency or whatever, and you call them and they're always going to answer. If you know that and you continuously and you keep on taking advantage of those things that they can do, then that's toxic. Because first of all, you need to think about, okay, what am I going to get from this friendship? But also remember that energy needs to be reciprocated, because with time, that person is going to realize that you're not willing to make an extra effort in order to make the friendship, alive and stuff like that. And then you shouldn't be surprised when they come and confront you about it, because it's something that was really a long time coming. So if you find that you can't really give what you can receive from that person, then that's a sign that you're toxic. Now, this brings me to the fifth sign that you're toxic, and this is when you take advantage of someone else's qualities, especially when you take their kindness for weakness. Now, let's say you know someone that's very forgiving, and then you keep on hurting them so many times, but you keep on having the mindset like, no, it's fine. They'll forgive me anyways. If you have that mindset that, they'll just do it anyways, they'll forgive me anyways, of course they'll do that for me anyways, because that's who they are. If you have that mindset, then that's toxic. You end up taking advantage of who they are and you end up using it to your advantage. But with time, like I said, they're going to realize and they're going to see through all of that. They're going to see through your mask that no, you're not being genuine with them. Not only that, but you're going to cause a deep sense of despair within that person because it's really going to do damage to them eventually. They're going to feel so broken by the time they exit that relationship, when they realize what you're really trying to do and what you're really trying to gain from that relationship, and they see you're only trying to do it to benefit yourself. Once they realize all of that, it's going to affect them even more, and that's something that needs to be fixed. That's something that you really can't own. If you realize that you're taking advantage of someone else's kindness, forgiving nature, if you're taking care of their loyalty towards you and their loyalty to people in general, and you're taking advantage of the fact that they really are someone that's always going to be there for you, and you're not actually appreciating those attributes to them, and you're not appreciating those qualities to them, but you're just using them to your advantage, then that's toxic, and that needs to be fixed. You need to remember that a relationship with someone that you care about is not a money transaction. You don't just go to it and leave it at your disposal when you pick and choose. It's something it's a two-sided street, it's a two-way street, and you need to remember that you guys are working together in order to keep the bond alive. So when you realize you're using it to your advantage like that, and you're treating your friendship like a transaction, then that's an issue, and that's toxic. You really can't expect someone to always be on standby for you, and they can come to you when you need them, and then you can put them back on standby, because like I said, they'll realize what you're up to, and then they'll realize where they stand and where you stand too. Now, the sixth and final sign that you're toxic, which is pretty self-explanatory, is if you're never apologetic. In a situation, an argument with your friend, an argument with your boyfriend, argument with your girlfriend, argument with your sister, argument with your mom, argument with your dad, you never apologize. You never feel like you're wrong. You need to remember that as human beings, we're going to be wrong in certain instances. You can never always be right. If you find that it's very difficult for you to apologize, and you find that you always, like I said in one of the previous points, that you always feel the need to guilt trip the person and kind of flip it around on them and make it seem like they're the one that's in the wrong when you are the one that is the cause of the situation. If you find that you need to always flip it around on someone else, then that's toxic, because you need to be able to apologize and really own up to the fact that you did hurt them in a particular way. You did cause the situation that maybe you're arguing about. You need to own up to that. And once you own up to that, you're not adding on to the problem. You're not adding oil to the fire. You're trying to deal with the issue there and there, and you're going to solve that issue as mature people as well. So I hope this video helped you, and I hope all these signs helped you, and I hope you take them into your stride as well, and you kind of gained an understanding on them. As always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. Stay safe, everyone. God bless you all. Bye.